Hello, this is Brian again. So I'm over another one of the fall summits. It's probably like the third one I've gone over on the way back. I got this one up ahead. So just enjoying. I'm just enjoying the vibe. Usually on the way back it's just me thinking, oh, I gotta get back to the car. Just enjoying some mule deer. There's some mule deer on this side of the ridge. I don't know if the camera will pick it up too well. I think there were at least three of them. There are at least three of them just walking diagonal on the slope of this little hill right here. Usually, I don't know if I've had some last comment sections on videos about if I actually see wildlife, because you see. Well, if you guys have seen my videos, you don't usually see a whole lot of wildlife, besides mostly lizards, of course. Lizards and birds are usually the wildlife I see most of. And me being interested in herpetology as well, though I'm not an expert, I'd say I know a little bit more about plants than I do herps. Reptiles and amphibians. So, but I really do enjoy when I see especially when I see a snake on the trail. Because snakes, I don't see them very often. I usually see a few a year. Sometimes a couple, sometimes a few. The snakes I see most often are southern Pacific rattlesnakes and gopher snakes. Those are the two snakes I almost exclusively see. Before I started filming, a few years before I started filming my hikes, my friend and I came across a San Diego ringneck snake in Tecolote Canyon near the Claremont neighborhood. It was a small one, really small young ringneck snake. They're usually pretty small. And it was in the middle of the path, just kind of coiled up. I had to look at it closer and think, oh my gosh, it's a ringneck snake. That was before I started filming my hikes, so fortunately I wouldn't have footage of that. Took pictures with a flip phone that's long gone. But that really excited me because that was the first time. I mean, I enjoy seeing reptiles and amphibians ever since I was a kid. I think even before the age of, like, about age of eight or so, I think is when I really started getting interested in reptiles and amphibians. And my whole childhood, I never saw a ringneck snake. Lots of species I've always wanted to see. Never saw a granite spiny lizard. And these are the things I see after I've moved to Orange County from San Diego, where I grew up. Moved to Orange County, graduated high school, went to community college, moved to New Jersey, moved back when I was 30 years old, and then I started seeing these other species. So I do think of my childhood a lot and my interest in herps whenever I come across these things. So it makes me feel great. I think the things I came across most when I was a kid, for reptiles, western fence lizard, side blotch lizard, southern or San Diego alligator lizard. That was what I came across most often. Then I came across occasional snakes. My mother actually caught a snake for me one time. I didn't even know what it was. I think it was probably related to the racers. I couldn't identify it when I was a kid. Really slender, very fast. Might have been a racer or one of its relatives in the colubrid snake family. But that was one I couldn't identify as a kid. Mother caught it for me and put it in a pack, you know, obviously with air to let it breathe. But then we thought it escaped, opened it up, and it slithered out and got away. But it's alright. You know, back then I used to catch lizards and frogs and stuff. Now at them, observe them, appreciate them. But yeah, as a kid, when it came to snakes, I didn't see snakes very often. Saw a rattlesnake as a kid, a couple gopher snakes, and a California king snake, the black and white banded phase. Black and white banded version of the California king snake. Once. Snakes were not very common sights for me. No, I wish they were. Then, as for amphibians, I used to see Baja tree frogs a lot in San Diego. Little urban canyons with little creeks running in them. Used to see them a lot. But I have not seen one. I have not seen one since I moved back. That's one thing. That's one thing in the opposite. I haven't seen one single Baja tree frog, or Baja chorus frog, whichever you want to call it, since I was a child in San Clemente Canyon. So since I was like 11 or 12 years old. So, I've heard evidence of them. I know somewhere on my channel there's a video where I was hiking down Keller Peak service road back to my car after a climb up to Keller Peak and Slide Peak, and on the way back, it was towards early evening. It was late afternoon, early evening. The sun was really low, and it was in late April, and I heard the frogs going, so I tried to get at least audio of them. It's a little faint, but towards the middle and latter part of the video you can kind of hear it. And I've heard them while hiking down to Silverado Canyon from, if you're hiking down the Silverado, it used to be called Silverado Motorway, which is a series of switchbacks that go up from Silverado Canyon's Maple Springs Visitor Center up to Main Divide Road near Bedford Peak, just north of it. And I remember coming down on one March evening with my friend. It was already getting dark, and the whole canyon was in a roar of the ribbit, 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 ribbit sounds of the Baja tree frog. And I just remember that hiking down that just put me in a really good place. So yes, I love talking about the plants. I love botanizing and talking about the plants and the shrubs, the trees, you know. I love talking about the peaks, the ridge lines, canyons, but I still get really excited when I see reptiles and amphibians, especially ones I don't see often or ones I've never seen before. So again, Baja tree frog was the one I used to see most as a kid. As a kid, I never got to see western toads. Always wanted to. Never see them. Now since moving back from New Jersey, I'm SoCal. Now I've been seeing them several times. Luckily got them on video a few times too. Sometimes it's hard to get them on video because they're small, and it's sometimes hard to get a good focused video on them because they're usually kind of far away. Western toad was one I never got to see. I remember once in San Clemente Canyon near the 52 freeway, near the East La Jolla, near Claremont and University City in San Diego. I remember one time my mother and I were in that canyon like we had done countless of times, and we both saw African clawed frogs. And I know they do get, sometimes they get loose. I guess people had them as pets and dumped them, and they do naturalize. And they actually are supposed to be pretty bad for the ecosystem. But you know, when I was a kid, when I saw the little African clawed frogs, they were young ones, kind of triangle shaped-ish. They can get quite a bit larger, but they were kind of young. I think they just finished metamorphing from their tadpoles, which are supposed to be quite different looking than other frog tadpoles, from what I understand. I've never seen the tadpoles themselves in person, but I remember I can't relate how excited I was. You know, as a kid, you know, it's another species. It's another species of amphibian. And I was just literally on cloud 9. Like I said, most of the time in that canyon, the amphibians I saw were basically 2 species of amphibians I've seen in that canyon besides that. I've seen, a lot of times I've seen the Pacific or bottom tree frogs, and then I've seen garden slender salamanders underneath rotting logs in the wet season. Garden slender salamanders, I used to see those. They're small. They're about the size of a medium-sized worm, but they're kind of darkish colored. They have a little bit of banding, a little bit of a stripe going from the head back, if I remember correctly. They're small, and they got little tiny arms, little tiny legs. Cool little things. I remember my mom had a friend who lived near downtown San Diego, and she had on her lawn, had a big old plant pot that it didn't have anything growing in it. It was just chilling there. So I remember, I guess I was curious as to what would be underneath it, and I would open it, pull it open, put it on its side, and there would be little garden slender salamanders in there, a little community of them. When I was a kid, that just blew my mind. that made my visit. I loved going to my mom's friend's house. I've been there on multiple occasions where I would see some salamanders because it was always moist in there. It was always wet, or the soil was always damp underneath the big wooden plant box, pot or whatever. So, of course, that excited the heck out of me. You know, as a kid, all I cared about was finding lizards and frogs and snakes. I had that one-track mind. So finding stuff was always fun, and I'm glad I had those experiences. Nowadays, now I can even appreciate it more because, you know, obviously I'm not going around catching to collect. I believe you'd have to have a fishing license, I think, if you wanted to catch a certain amount of non-protected species. Then you have to have a fishing license, which I don't have. But I don't go fishing. I know it's supposed to be a really relaxing sport, but I know a lot of people are really passionate about it. Me, I like to just enjoy seeing them. I mean, a lot of people do the catch and release thing. Me, hiking is where it is. And because of the fact that I've been branching out and hiking different spots, where I've been able to come across these different species. And also, when I was a kid, I never got to see a horned lizard, a coast horned lizard, and now I've seen them on a few occasions now, ever since moving back, because I'm going to different places. I know when you're a kid, you're kind of restricted where you can go. You can only go where your parents can take you or where they allow you to walk to. So, I have that experience. It's always really cool to see a different species. So I've seen it used to be called coast horned lizards, now it's called coast or Blainville horned lizard. That'd be Phrynosoma blainvillei, which is actually related to the fence and spiny lizards, believe it or not. They're all in the Phrynosomatidae, the spiny and horned lizard family. So that's really cool. But all I can say is, it's just amazing what kind of diversity of wildlife we do have, even though it might be kind of shy. Wildlife might be kind of shy, especially very timid here in Southern California because of the common practice of hiking here in Southern California, because there's a lot to do hiking-wise here. It really is. But just figured I want to relate a little something about my other interest. And yes, herpetology is one of them, definitely. I love reptiles and amphibians. Loved them since I was a kid, and always will. So whenever I can find something that'll stand still long enough for me to get it well in focus, I love getting video of that stuff when I find it. It's just getting that footage, which can be sometimes quite difficult. Alright, well, I still got several hundred feet to descend down this Firebreak, so I'm gonna start focusing because this is where the steepest part's coming up. So I'll see you down by the car, or a little bit before it maybe.